Welcome to On the Edge with Deneen Dias. I have been looking forward to this discussion today with my good friend Dixie McCurley from Cherry Bekaert. Dixie, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Deneen. Yes, I'm Dixie McCurley, like you just said, and I'm a partner at Cherry Bekaert and running the client accounting services practice. It sits underneath our digital advisory practice, and so we're trying to build that CAS 2.0 model. Having done it for 10 years at a prior firm, building it at a large CPA firm today really is what I'm doing every day.
Well, I have known you probably for over 10 years, and you and I have been helping firms build out a CAS practice over the last 10 years. But I tell everybody that I have Dixie in my brain. I think I have learned the most from you, watching you just survive and thrive over the last 10 years as you've built it. And I'm really looking forward to digging in a bit on how you're doing it now at Cherry Bekaert. You're with a large firm that's very, focused on digitization, and you're now taking it to the next level. So some of us have been calling it CAS 2.0, and I'd love to just learn more from you today on how you are doing that at Cherry Bekaert.
Yeah, sure. For me, it really is, especially this year in 2022, it's beyond the numbers. So how do we go beyond the numbers of what we've always done and really, use technology, create better processes, and also, train our people on how we're going to service clients. So, doing it at a small firm for a number of years is a lot different because it's like turning a small boat, a little speedboat, actually. And you've helped me understand that too over the years. But at a large firm, turning the ship, the big ship, is a little bit different. So having organizational, enterprise level systems to be able to do that, it's a good time right now because clients really need help and they're turning to their CPA firms for not only for client accounting services and outsourcing all of that, but for tax advisory, the other things that their businesses need today, more than ever.
I agree. Well, and I think a lot of firms are running to building this faster than they ever have before. Some have dabbled through the years, but now they're all hearing how it is the fastest revenue source, right? It's growing 25 to 35%. But I think a lot of them, well, they don't have a Dixie that has done this before, but they're trying to bring in the right talent. They're trying to shift, the services that they're providing to the clients. They have a book of business that isn't like the new way. They don't know how. It's just there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. So you have some great analogies as you're talking with clients and as you're talking to your team. So I'd love for you to walk us through, how you're doing that and how you're shifting all of this.
Sure. For me, it really does remind me of the .com era. I mean, the market right now where so many people have so much money to spend, they're all doing well. The ones that have survived are thriving. They need help. Their businesses are growing. Technology is at a space where they can't really, cobble it together as much as they could before. So they have two choices: do it themselves and build an accounting department inside their business, or focus on running the business and outsource that to a firm like us to really help do that with even better tools. I mean, it reminds me so much of working at Earthlink, and that dial-up was really the cash cow in terms of dial-up internet. It was all about the customer experience. And one of the reasons why Earthlink was around the longest with dial-up after all those years of .com was because they had the best customer service. Other providers outsourced offshore really early, but they were all about the customer experience. And that's what we've got to do right now. We've got to transform that customer experience at our firms, where we're not just doing a P&L, a balance sheet, financial statements. But we now have at our fingertips, those things that only take us 10 minutes or 10 hours. But how can you do that today? I call it 10 minutes plus 10 years of experience. It takes 10 years of experience of having done it. All the pieces are there. And then I also think about George Blankenship when he talked at the Digital CPA conference. He was one of the keynote speakers, and he helped Steve Jobs in the Apple days when they were creating the iPhone. And he made it very clear and very simple. All the parts and the pieces that are in the iPhone, all of that technology It was there at the time. It's just Apple did a better job of that customer experience, a lot better than anyone else, and they shined. Same thing here with CAS practices. All the technology's been there for all these years, but now we have the ability to create a different customer experience, what that looks like, compared to the way that we've always done it. And that really is that big opportunity today.
I agree. And I mean, we've been saying this for the last year, right? The war for talent is a challenge for firms right now. Is, they can't keep the top talent. Well, either can small businesses. And so there's definitely a need. The clients are turning to firms asking for helps. And a lot of the firms are saying no because we're at capacity. And so how can you, I like what you're saying, be client centric? How can you say yes, but say yes to the demand of what the client is asking for? They're asking for more help in the outsourced accounting space. They don't want to do it. They can't keep talent to do it. They've tried to do it and they can't make meaning of their numbers. Their books are a mess. And so can you share sort of how you're building your team and how you're saying yes to this client demand? But also, I think you're going after the larger client, right? You're pretty selective about who you're saying yes to.
Well, it's definitely a different talent market than I have ever seen. There is a war for talent. It's hard to find people who are so experienced and have the know-how of, either doing business process outsourcing or, the transaction level or writing reports, et cetera. I think finding good talent is about thinking outside of the box. Talent now has to have more skills than ever. So I've talked before about upskilling your staff. We've got to have those soft skills. We've got to be able to take a call with a client, especially like a complaint, and add on services to that. So there's a whole lot of things that go into a CAS practice of different roles and responsibilities. I spoke a little bit on project management at the Digital CPA conference, but also where we're headed in terms of having an FP&A outsourced department. So looking at that well-rounded individual to find the talent to help build what we need and service that, we've got to look towards how do we build a gig economy in our firms. We've got so much expertise and talent in a larger CPA firm. But it's very hard to tap that and put it as part of the recurring monthly services. So that's what we're looking at, are those people that want to do it in that CAS 2.0 level. And, CPA.com has come out with the advisory council for what 2.0 looks like. But it really is, I like to say, we're going beyond the numbers. And I always think about how can we figure this out? And I think about the 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that sits on the desk. And how do we do it? How do you solve a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle? We've got two options. Number one, get a team of people to go search for the edges, the corner pieces, or let's talk about what AI and ML can do for us. Maybe there's a smart view that points that out to us faster. But we've got to have those people who think outside the box, use technology, use automation, but it's all about the insights to the business. So we've got to go beyond the numbers and know what's important to them. We're paying more in salaries than I ever imagined. And that's what happened years ago in these markets. So this is a market that clients are paying for services. They want us to handle it. We have top talent that's coming to us with those well-rounded skills, and salaries are increasing. And there is a big shift of people who want to work at firms that's doing that CAS 2.0.
Yeah, there's a lot of that talent is leaving the firm because the traditional firm is not giving them, like, they have all these ideas of how they can do it and they feel kind of trapped. They don't feel supported. I see them leaving firms and they're going into industry, but I think there's an opportunity to be with visionaries like yourself to say, hey, come here, let's do it together here. Let's build this out here. So I think, you're attracting that talent because they want to work this way. They want to advise the client. They want to use the technology. They want to use the AI and machine learning to be more analytical and be able to tell a story of the numbers. There's lots of things you just said that I want to drill down on. But I would love for you to share what 2.0 means to you. What are you doing that's different? How are you taking CAS to the next level and to what you would call CAS 2.0?
To me, it really is very key to say beyond the numbers. So what write-up work is all about the financial numbers. Okay, we're going to give you your financial reports. Oftentimes clients just throw that in the trash because it doesn't help them run their business. It's all about compliance. And so first step is, how do we help them run their business? You know, Bill Reeb has the whole training program on trusted business advisor and how you turn into a trusted business advisor. Well, that is becoming predictable. You know, how do you look at what's going to happen when you analyze the numbers? You've got to take it beyond the numbers. So we've got to do the insights report. So not just here's your financials, and it's not compared to the operational and the statistical information. The first thing that clients have always said to me when I show them, oh, here's your revenue numbers compared to last month, they go, well, how many of that did we sell across how many customers, and what was our average daily sales? Well, we now have all of that data at our fingertips. We've got to write a report. And then when we see that average daily sales is below what their key metrics are, in terms of if they've got to sell more than 12,000 a day to be able to hit their targets for the next 3 to 6 months, they've got to be on track to do that. We have to point out to them when they're not doing it. And then we have to talk about which salesperson is responsible for that. You know, which general manager didn't hit those sales? What made up all of that? Was it an event that didn't occur? Was it something else that we didn't go? Why are we not there? You know, we've been trained as accountants. We haven't been trained as the CFO, the budgeter, the forecaster, the CEO to be able to help run the performance. And so we now have that at our fingertips. We've got to give them an insights report, and that takes a lot of time to build. You can't do it overnight. You got to have the tools to be able to do it too.
And you've been doing this for 10 years. So the way you're talking to a client's very different than the way the traditional firm, you know, on the accounting side. And I would say the traditional firm, 90% of their business is still in write-up. As they're building CAS, they tend to be selling that to new customers, offering new services, but they have a book that they could also tackle too that wants these types of analytical advisory. And because, and I've said this too, like all this data is coming at the firms. That's been coming at the firms, right? They've been so busy reporting on it. How do you shift and tell a story with the numbers? How do you shift with all this data that you're having now real time to be able to look at the metrics and talk to the customer the way you're talking? That's exciting to me. And please share with everybody what you're charging for this, because I think you'll blow a couple of minds.
Well, you know, we're charging in line with what other, you know, leading CAS practices across the nation are charging. I mean, I give a shout out to Mitch Weintraub, who's been on the Sage Intact Accountants Program Advisory Council with me for almost 9 years. He mentioned a couple of years ago, because they had such a high focus in CAS on the exact industry that they wanted, he got to a $50,000 a month CAS client, you know, way faster than I was ever able to get there. So, you know, hearing those stories of, oh, it is about verticalization, you know, the rules of CAS, number one, go vertical, is so true today. And that's the same thing. Having focused in the restaurant industry for 10 years, you get to speak the language, you know, all the ways to set it up. You can go beyond the numbers to give those metrics, operational metrics that make so much sense. And so related to one of the very first CAS clients signed recently, you know, in that $20,000 to $50,000 space, you know, they want to replace their internal accounting department, or their business has shifted and changed and they've waited so long to do it that they need so much help that they're willing to pay these fees instead of hiring 2 or 3 people to do it. So it's not that hard to see that you could have a $300,000, $500,000 accounting department staffed at businesses that are growing from 10 to 30 to $50 million. You know, they've got that staff that they have to be able to grow, or they can outsource it to us, and that equates to those types of monthly revenue fees.
Well, I think you can talk to them too about where you start, right? You don't have to replace. I think so many firms worry about replacing the staff. Well, you need to talk to the client about their people, their process, their technology, and say, you're coming to me because you're broken. We can analyze all of that and we can fix it. We'll keep what's good. If you've got great people, we can put new process and technology in place, and you can keep the people, but, you know, bring us in to analyze all of this. So I don't think it's necessarily always replacing people, but sometimes it is. And you need to just have that discovery, which you're so good at, right? Having that discussion. So can you share sort of everybody how you have that discovery discussion initially to assess their people, process, and technology to help them shift?
Yeah, you know, for me, it's a lot like health in general. So whether it's the health of the business or if it's the health of your body, you have to diagnose it. Sometimes there are very critical events that happen with businesses. Same thing that happens with the body. So let's say that you think you might be suffering a heart attack. You know the warning signs, right? If you've got shallow breath, your arm hurts, all of those things, you don't know whether or not you're having a heart attack. That EKG and the ambulance and the hospital and the ER, all of that stuff's necessary to be able to help you get on the track to wellness. And then if we've got to fix something or diagnose something, it's all about the diagnosis. So we don't have to go in with everything with the clients. In fact, I think that the CAS practice is really becoming the Apple Watch that's going to predict if you have all the symptoms and signs of a heart attack, right? Like we may not be aware that our stress level and our rate and what all that is. So the CAS practice is the ones that are helping that business health, and then create a plan for wellness. Okay, do we need to, have an operation? Do we need to do this now? Or can we put together a plan to lower 20 pounds, right? Okay, so let's take the waste out of cost of goods sold. Let's take the waste out of labor. Let's take that, I call it the 2% time bomb. That businesses feel like they've got a time bomb sitting in their lap, and it's usually all about cash flow. So how can we fix cash flow? Well, we've got to diagnose where are we wasting it? Where are we spending it? And then where are we not having that opportunity to make it better? And that's all about that forecasting of making business decisions today. They're going to impact that in the future. It's like, putting good food in your mouth for your body. You're making those decisions every day. So that's really, to me, what we are, is that wellness center for business.
I love the great analogy. We have a question. So somebody wants to know, how do you deal with employees who aren't on board with the vision and don't want to upskill? In particular, these employees are in protected classes. They say older women. So we can't just let them go. How do you repurpose them?
In teaching workshops with CPA.com, I've been teaching them since 2014. I've seen a lot of firms and helped consult with a lot of firms, not only in my own firm, but also at Cherry Bekaert. There are a lot of very skilled, talented professionals who just need to see the new way of doing it. I equate it to my mother. My mother actually wears an Apple Watch. She actually has now an iPhone. She's sending me pictures. All of a sudden, she's in love with the iPhone. And I thought, 5 years ago, that would never happen. Like, she's not going to do it, right? Still had the home phone. So I think that there's an opportunity there to inspire and teach and share and change over time. And that's the change management piece. I also thinking about being a good leader is meeting people where they are. You don't have to convince everyone. Do that personality test. Do that, who is right for this, and then invite them to come along. I think that you got to meet that with how you do challenges. So I have been talking to several potential staff and, bringing in new people, and they go, wow, oh my gosh, you just blew my mind, because we now have digital transformation tools. We now have data and analytics tools. We now have all of this coming together. And I think that staff really wants to do well by their client. And when you can say, okay, what does this client need? They're the ones that know the client. They're the ones that know how many invoices. They're the ones that know what are the problems of where we're going to encounter problems with the clients. They know their personalities. They actually are the ones that can do the best client success for these. They can tell you how to do it. So create an employee advisory board. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to their concerns. You can learn a lot from those concerns, and then you can also help move them there together. And so a joint plan, to me, is where it's at. Like, let's all listen to each other. What we're trying to do, not the way it's old school done, and how write-up is going away. I always equate it to Earthlink. Earthlink's cash cow was dial-up internet services. There are still rural counties across the nation that have Earthlink dial-up internet services, but the wave of the future is broadband. It is Wi-Fi, and it's, you have it in your pocket everywhere you go. That's just where we are. We might be in that 10 to 15 year mark, but they're going to come along with that. So I want to bring them along. I also think that employees at your clients they actually want to be a part of this to help other clients and to see best practices of other clients that do this and other companies that do that. And they might be a great source to bring in that talent as well, to use the new technology, really have a get it factor.
I think the thing that this talent, no matter what, they care about their customer. They bend over backwards. They work so hard. They care about the customer. Sometimes they're giving stuff away for free because the customer does trust them and call them for all these extra things, and they just do it. And so they really care about the customer. So I like what you said about listen to this talent. But one thing Bill Reeves said is the talent is going to go kicking and screaming to a place they love. So what you just outlined, Dixie, is showing the vision of going to a place that they're going to love, because they're going to be able to help the client more in all these new ways if they just stop trying to do what they've done the same way they've always done it, which is gather the data, report on the data. Now there's technology like Botkeeper that automates the mundane, freeing them up to talk to their customer more, which is actually who they love. And so, I know, Dixie, you are starting to use Botkeeper, and that there's a certain place in your strategy for where Botkeeper fits. And I'd love for you to really talk about how you are using more AI and machine learning as you build this.
Everyone really wants an easy button. That's what I keep going back to. If I were to look 10 years ago versus today, I wanted an easy button 10 years ago too.
Huh?
It took about 4 or 5 good years to realize, there is no easy button. You have
to build it.
You have to build it for your clients. You have to build it for your staff. You have to build it for your, you have to manage all of those things. I think about how Earthlink in the call centers went offshore. The reason why they had to do it was because they couldn't charge $24.95 anymore for dial-up internet service. They were $5 providers. Now, at over 5 years, over 10 years with that .com, when that was happening, people would still pay premium for it. That's the same thing with write-up work. It's the same thing with the transactional coding. We used to could charge our hourly rates for it. You can't do it anymore because technology has been working against us or with us for 10 years. So if you haven't already adopted all of that, it's not going to happen. When you go offshore, you have to have the playbook. You have to know the client. That's the thing that the firms have that's so much value, is that you've got the trust of the client. It's not that you're going to replace any staff, really. It's that you've got to use technology right next to the human assisted, so that the humans can think smarter about how to make the technology better. And so working smarter instead of working harder is the way you got to go, but it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's not hard either.
I appreciate, and listen, I've been working with firms helping them embrace new technology for the last, 14, 15 years. And they always think that they're going to bring in this technology and push a button and just get started. And it's going to do everything. And that's certainly not the case with any technology that I've ever helped firms try to embrace. And Botkeeper is no different, right? So really understanding and partnering with the technology company to understand what they do and what you do, and putting that playlist in place is so important, so that you have a new process where things work smoother to free up your people. I think, listen, I want to push a button and lose 10 pounds, right? Like to your health analogy, right? Go to the doctor. Like, I wish it was easy. You still have to build it. You still have to put process in place. You still have to integrate the technology and the talent. And so you are a process-driven person. That's what I've always loved about working with you, right? You think about the process. You think about standardization. You think about fertilization. And that's why Cherry Bekaert acquired you, right? They wanted you to come in. You need that type of talent within the firm, like you, right? That's going to put the process in place, that's going to build it, that's going to understand where the technology fits, that understands where the human fits, that is the visionary, that can paint the picture for the talent to come along for the ride with you. The puzzle isn't easy. 1,000-piece puzzle, putting those pieces together, it's not easy, but you've got 10 years experience doing it, so you make it look easy. So since you've helped so many firms build this, like, what's your best advice on how to keep pushing and moving towards that CAS 2.0, towards that $20,000, $50,000 client?
For me, I think it's inspiration about it's there. The goal is there, but you have to do it every day. I think about how I've used technology over the years. When Smart Alerts came out of Sage Intact,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, okay, they're gonna solve all the world's problems. But what I realized is that in being able to leave and teach for 2 days of workshop, when I would come back into the everyday standardization, it was chaos because there were so many questions, and it was all about the changes to the client's business. Oh, the client's adding a new product line. Oh, the client just hired 18 people. Oh, the client did all of this. What do I do with all of that? And so people would add general ledger codes. Adding general ledger codes created errors in financial statements. So when you've got an average of 20 errors in a month end per client, and you're getting 60 calls a week per client, per staff member, per all of that, you have to use technology smarter. Well, one of the ways is that you can lock down all of the changes to all the dimensions that blow up all of your management reporting. And so all of a sudden, boom, and then you can proactively look at when are the intercompanies out of balance. And so you can think about the smart things where you spend all of your time at month end, and think about, okay, can I strip 40 hours out of this by using the Smart Alert? If so, I probably need to spend 40 to 100 to 400 hours to build that smart, test it out, deploy it, and then watch it and manage it. Those are the things where I would say one initiative a year in a CAS practice. Now you've got that humming. That is exponential savings of time and costs and efficiency and technology. And those are all the things that you learn after you've done them, and then learn how they're way more powerful for the next 10 years. And so that's the thing, is that we now have data analytics. We can build dashboards really quickly. We can do all of that, but you could flood the client with information. You could flood them with reports, and guess what? They're in the noise of it again. They're like, we don't want to do that anymore. So they used to not want to do the transactions. Now they don't want to look at and manage all those reports and all those operational stuff. They want us to tell them the good stuff.
Love
So
it.
that's really the big shift of technology and putting in those practices that technology enables. But you've got to have the humans that are smart enough to know it. You've got to have processes to create the insights, and all of that is an administrative function. It's project management, it's client success, it's focusing on the customer experience. All of that we've got to bring into the CAS practice to go to a 2.0.
I agree. Well, and I think, excuse me, I think to your point, right, the client, you can say to the client, hey, you can do this all on your own, or you can do it with my team who has experience doing it with a lot. And listen, do it on your own. And they're probably going to come back to you and say, hey, Dixie, I tried to do it on my own, but I wish I listened to you. And now I'm ready to do it with you, because firms are still figuring this out. Clients are definitely figuring this out. And so I think firms are so trepidatious, right, to not have it all figured out right away. Instead of saying, hey, let's figure this out as we go, and our clients are going to learn with us, and we're going to get better, because our clients need us to do this because they can't do it on their own without us, right? And having that confidence that, it takes time to build all these pieces. I think firms want it to be like you were saying, like push a button, have it be done. Like there's no button. You have to build it, right? And just I used to drive me nuts. No one used Smart Alerts with Intact. None of the firms were using Smart Alerts. Why aren't you? To me, it's brilliant that Intact can alert you when your client's numbers are out of whack. Well, you just told me why. It took hours to get the technology to work for you. And so how are you giving your team time to learn? Like, where are you finding those hours?
Well, that's the thing, especially with Cherry Bekaert. Our client and accounting services practice sits underneath our digital advisory practice. And we've also gone through digital transformation at the firm. And when you talk about, workflow and tasks and using technology to do things smarter, we now know that we can go log in to the system automatically of where that journal entry was actually put. And we can check it with our smart technology that we build our own digital tools to check and make sure that it's complete. And so there's a lot of ways to do that, which is how we're going to be able to scale. And so I've always had in my head that as a controller, just me personally, if I'm talking about one person, I could handle 10 clients, no doubt. But there would be no way 10 years ago that I could have handled 50 clients by myself. I now think that that's a different story 10 years later. So I call it 10 minutes plus 10 years experience is how long it takes. That those things that may only take 10 minutes to be able to scale that, how can you go from 10 clients to 100 clients? Those are the ones to focus on first. Where are we going to get the largest scale? Because the demand is absolutely way out there from clients. Clients need help and they're willing to pay for it. We just have to know what's out of scope, what's in scope, and have that client success role defined to trigger that for us.
So we're at time. I love the way you think. I always like the way you think. I learned so much from you. I would love to do another one to just get into that brain more. And I wish more firms had people thinking right this way, because it's helping the customer. The customer, there's no doubt once they start talking to you, Dixie, that they'll be like, okay, so where do I sign? Let's do this. Please help me. You're very inspiring. Thank you so much. Are we at time, Della?